Hey, welcome to Tech Thursday. I'm Nicole.
And I'm Cassidy.
God, we seem really echoey today. What's up with that? Hold on, I'm gonna open this door and get. You know, it's cold out there. It's okay. We can handle it though.
Weird.
Yeah, it's not usually echoing here, but
No.
anyway, we thought that we actually have our company retreat coming up tomorrow, which is why I thought that we could talk about company retreats and all that stuff. Did you ever have a retreat at any other job you've had or anything?
Not a retreat per se, but we had a little get together that was informal. It wasn't like we did any work. It was just like a get together at someone's house and bring some family and not talk about work. So
Yeah.
not a retreat.
Yeah.
But we had a little thing.
Right.
If you
Yeah.
will.
Well, so I had one at my first job. I call it my first real job because I had other jobs, but I was like 25 and I was working at a nonprofit, and they had all of us in the department. There was like 12 of us. They rented the sitting room or something of a bed and breakfast. It wasn't quite like a conference room. Like there wasn't like a table or anything. There's lots of there's lots of like cushy chairs, and it was like pretty big.
Yeah.
And they had like a little the chart paper. You know,
Chart
set up
paper.
with the markers.
That's like the key.
The key.
The key to a retreat is chart paper.
Right. I gotta go check and make sure we have some now that I'm thinking about it. But anyway, so we had that set up, and the idea was to like vision the next 3 to 5 years or something like that. And I won't lie, I kind of thought it was a bunch of BS. I was like, why are we, all going to this thing literally a block away from the office to like talk about this stuff?
You know what? I take that back. We didn't call it a retreat, but we had something very similar every year before the summer program starts. So I used to work for an offshoot of the Maine Seacoast Mission, and so there's year-round programs after school, but then there were also summer camps. So before the summer camps, like a week or two before, everyone, like the leaders and the high school staff, would all get together for 1 to 2 days, prep equipment. We would all sit down. I think there was one part where like someone would teach us a new game to do with the kids, but we all had to like play it. And then there were intro activities like say your name and your favorite flavor of ice cream and like stuff like that. And
right.
There was definitely chart paper involved.
Okay, so we seem to agree that the essential company retreat involves 3 things. It involves some informal getting to know you stuff. It involves some getting things done, and it also involves chart paper of some sort, which I guess we could take as just brainstorming or collecting ideas, right?
Yeah, it seems a little more like informal and kind of fun, and something about like having like colorful markers. And I don't know.
Right.
It just really.
Right. So yeah. Well, and what gave me the idea, okay, so this is going to be, I think, our 4th one, because I think we did 2 1 year, oddly enough.
Yes.
So this is going to be our 4th one, and the reason I decided to do this is actually 2 reasons. One is I was working with a business advisor, and she was like, this would be a really good thing to do with people. And I was like, oh, that's a really good point. And I think I talked to her about potentially doing it, and she kind of signed off on like, that's a good idea. But the real reason was that what I understood is Cassie and I work together all day, right? But then we also have John, who like is a couple of hours away, who I am having separate conversations with. And then the subcontractors or other people, who've come on and whatever for different times that I'm also, so I was having separate conversations with everyone. But what I realized is that like, if Cassie wanted to email John and be like, hey, I'm looking for these photos, they're not in the Dropbox place I would expect them, where are they? It would be a little odd for her to email someone that she's literally never met or interacted with. So I thought, okay, there's something of value to the whole FaceTime thing, and also, getting everyone in the company working well together versus having it have to go through me. I thought that was kind of stupid. So that was the original reasoning. So now, Cassie, I'm going to ask you. Now, when I told you we were having a company retreat the first time, did you think it was totally dumb? And it's okay, your answer has no effect on anything. What was your first impression of that idea?
My first impression was because it was like my first real retreat since doing the Ed stuff where I kind of already knew everyone. I was kind of just like,
okay, terrified.
Because I knew that. I don't know if there's like totally a meme where it's like my nightmare is having to say my name and something special about myself. So that was kind of what I'm totally the person in a meeting who, when I find out that you have to go around, I'm like explaining my answer and not really listening to anyone else's because I'm just so like. But it actually was so much fun. That was the one that we did at Blue Nose, right?
Yeah. So
yeah.
yeah. So what we realized is in our old office, we literally didn't have a room we could fit 4 people in comfortably.
That's right.
So I started looking around for a spot that didn't cost $1 million that like could hold 4 people and, you know, some chart paper and some snacks. And we ended up renting a ballroom at the Blue Nose Inn. And so those of you who've never been to Bar Harbor, like picture like 1980s like industrial carpet and like maybe a chandelier. But like in the middle of this giant room was like a small table with 4 chairs and 4 yeah, and then 4 glasses of water. Like it was just funny because we literally took up what, maybe 10% of the whole room. So that's
we went from like a little
tiny office
to like having an office space.
And that was part of me being finally like, okay, Acrespace needs to exist so we can have a place like this. But what was cool about it is that we tried to incorporate this idea of the 3 things, right? The informal, getting to know you stuff, the, you know, and then you want to make it a little special. You know, you want to get takeout food or you want to get kind of snacks that people like. You know, it's the very least that you could do because you're supposed to make it a little bit special, a little bit less like a normal work day.
We do have awesome snacks.
We try to have snacks, try to get everyone snacking, taken care of. And then we try to get some stuff done. So the basic structure has been the same all 4 times, which is like we have a getting to know you period.
Yes.
Where we catch up. And by the way, like 10 minutes per person, and you can like say whatever you want to say or talk about home stuff or talk about just what's going on in your life. And, you know, it ends up being more of a conversation, less of a presentation, because, you know, it's just the way it is. But we want to give everyone kind of an equal amount of time to sort of talk. And then we get into what went well this past year.
Yeah.
And we make a list of that, and we're taking notes on giant chart paper because colorful markers are fun.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we take turns taking notes, which is also fun.
Yes, yeah. So that's the idea, too, is that there's not one person, like, it shouldn't be just me, like, doing a giant presentation, because first of all, it's really boring, and second of all, it puts a lot of pressure on me. And then, what's the next part?
We usually do, like, what could be better or concerns.
Yeah.
And then we pick kind of, I feel like we pick 3 things
that we want to concentrate on.
Are definitely, like, what the action steps are. And then I think we also, there's a time at the beginning where we review what the things were from the last.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, and so, like, you know, this year, for example, like, we had thrown out the idea of, and it was something John noticed, and it's really funny because I didn't notice it, and I don't know if Cassie noticed it and didn't say anything, but he was like, you know, like, you're just really self-deprecating, and...
I think I'm used to it, though, or, like, I'm blind to it because I'm also a little self-deprecating. I might not be in my writing, but it's just something that I think is my internal conversation with myself. So
yeah, so
I think I was just really blind to it.
Yeah, so it's something John brought up, and he brought a couple of examples, and he's like, it just made it sound like it isn't a big deal, and you have to understand that, like, you are really, you know what you're doing, and that you being self-deprecating isn't communicating
confidence.
Yeah, and it's not communicating it's not communicating modesty. It's communicating like uncertainty. So. But that was something, as we were talking, that would have never come... You know, if we were just exchanging emails back and forth, that would have never come out. But that was part of a larger conversation. So it's something that we've really I've been working on a lot this year in my writing in particular, or the way we express things. And it's something that Cassie and I try to catch each other on. Well, at least I try to catch... I think you try to catch me on it. Because sometimes I'll even notice when I email Cassie, the other thing that came out of it was we need to have everything proved by at least one other person. Anything of length. Not every tweet or anything, but like, you know, if it's an email or if it's a blog post, it should be proofed by someone else. Yeah. And what's cool is like, I'll sometimes email Cassie and be like, I think this is a little too self-deprecating.
Yeah, like, you know, we kind of have a good idea of what our own weaknesses are, so we can kind of call ourselves out on them. Or like, if you've just spent like an hour looking at something, you're like, I know this could use a little of this, but I'm like at a point where my brain is kind of fried. And I either need a break or I just need someone else to look at it.
Right.
That's, an awesome thing that came out of last year's.
Right, and we've taken that work to client work too. Anything of length gets reviewed by at least one other person. Yeah. And if it's like really big, like if it's a really big launch or something, it gets reviewed by theoretically all three of us. So, so I thought that was a really great thing that came out, and it's not something that would have necessarily come out if we didn't sit down and like kind of have a conversation.
Yes.
And then so after we figure out the areas we want to work on for the next year, 2 or 3, I think we do like a learning thing. So we each have a 10-minute presentation about something.
And it's usually, I'm just thinking of Alelia's KeyPass thing from
Oh
last
my
year.
God, I know.
That was like that was amazing. I still think the auto type thing is, so one of our, I think it was about a year ago, at our retreat, we had a 4th person here, and she gave a really awesome presentation on the, I'm like blanking on what it is.
Password management software that we use. And we thought we knew everything. We thought we knew enough about it.
Yeah, we thought it was kind of like, we were like, okay, so some things were just kind of vague and obscure and weird, but like, that's just the nature of password management.
Right.
Because it's, I mean, the symbol's a key. I feel like when I think of that, I'm like, okay, I'm not going to understand everything.
Yeah.
But she, like, right off the bat, I was like, whoa.
Yeah, she gave us one little tip where basically it takes the entry and it automatically fills it out for you.
Yeah,
and
so
if
you don't have to, like, manually do it or, like, copy and paste everything.
Right. So if you think about it, just that little tip that came out of that workshop probably saved, it probably saves me at least 30 minutes a month.
Oh, yeah.
And it probably saves Cassie 30 minutes a month. So, it's one of those things where if you're flexible with what's going to come out of it, I think it ends up being kind of useful. Because especially the first retreat, we had to rent the room. So, like, think about it, because the outlay is kind of big, especially if you're a small business, because you're renting a room or you're setting something up, you're buying food, and then you're paying for everyone to be there. Yeah. So, like, I figure our retreat costs us somewhere around $600 to run, between all the staff time that's used, any travel, food, and so you have to justify to yourself, okay, if I'm going to spend $600, not just of money, but of, some time we could be doing something else, it has to be worth it, but it also has to be fun. So there's really a balance between, if you look at, we spend about 6 hours, but like 3 of them are kind of a little bit more laid back, and 3 of them are a little bit more, or maybe it's more like 4 and 2. 4 of them are kind of intense, and 2 of them are us. We take an hour for lunch, we have, we take breaks, and we have catch-up time, and
I will say the lunch break, you kind of want to make things a little light after the lunch break, because the one year that we went to jalapenos, we had like the taco salad, and that was pretty useless after that.
Yeah, we ate like a ton of food, and then we were like hit the kind of nap coma time. It's so funny because, we see a lot of virtual companies who say, oh yeah, we never have to have anyone in one room. And I'm not saying that you should meet to have a meeting. I'm just saying that once a year, the fact that we all live in the state of Maine, like, why can't we all get together,
right.
once a year? And it's just like, I think, a pretty good use of our time, because like I said, not only do we get the benefits of, just getting to know each other better and like having these conversations, but also we can learn some useful stuff too.
Yeah, and I will say, like, even, remote companies are like half and half remote people, like our company. It's super helpful to have, get everyone together maybe once a year.
Right.
But even companies that see each other every day, I think it is incredibly useful. Like,
right.
I'm just thinking of like, across the street, if we had like a company retreat, like, because there's people that are doing stuff over there that I've never really met, or I don't know what they do, and I'm kind of still meeting new people after 6 months.
Right.
I'm like figuring out like, oh, okay, so like you do what I do, but not at the same time I'm there.
Right.
So,
and it also takes out the levels of like, it kind of puts everyone in this different environment, which I think makes everyone kind of reshuffle a bit.
Yeah.
Like, if you have to walk into someone's office to have a conversation about what you think you can improve how the company could improve, that's really asking someone a lot, especially if they're a little shy or not really confrontational. But if you create a space to have those conversations, I think you know, it's probably in the back of your head, right? Some, you know, you've been thinking as it approaches. I've been thinking too, like, oh, you know, what has been going well? What could be better? And what I like is that every year, like, it's not the same problems every year. And I'm not saying that, and they get, and I don't know, I'm a little bit biased, but they seem to get less and less of a big deal. So like one of the things we identified, I think 2 years ago, was we need a more secure password management system. Like, you know, we need to secure our clients' data. So we have two-factor authentication on our email that came from that. We moved to the password management system that we use that's really secure and a little bit hard to get to. Like, you need to know 4 separate things. You need to have one of our cell phones, access to one of our email addresses. You need to know this weird file name to look up, and then you need to know how to get into Dropbox and find the weird file. So it's like, you need to know these 4 weird things to get into our stuff, and good luck.
Yeah.
So now I feel really confident
I don't
telling
even
clients.
know the 4 things. So.
Right. Well, I tell clients, you know, like, if you give us your information, we put it in a really safe place. Like, don't email it to us. I always tell them, like, you can text me, you can send it in an encrypted message. Like, don't send it to my email, but even if someone did, like someone emailed me a credit card number, don't do that, okay? At least I know that my email is super hard to get into. So, but that's something that came out of a discussion.
And I think in that same retreat was when we had like the systems talk of like creating systems for doing things.
Yeah.
So yeah, one system would be like entering in client info, like KeyPass.
Yeah.
That goes in there.
Exactly. And it's
so we're all on the same page, but like you said, like as the years kind of progress, it's
not like
tweaking and not like,
oh, our client info may not be secure. Oh, like we have no idea how to get at things. You know, it's like more nuanced things like,
or like how do we improve like our blogs, we prove each other,
right,
and like work on tone and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think a big part of why that's the way it is because we have this retreat every year where we're like actively looking at this stuff and checking in. So.
And like I said, I know it sounds stupid that like a 3 to 4 person company can't easily have these conversations, but it's not even necessarily about, I don't know. There's just something about this that really works well for us, and I encourage any size company to do, because I think it's really worthwhile to take the time and have these unexpected returns.
I will say in the 3-person company defense, I feel like it is a little hard to have those conversations because, you know, we are a small company, so we're working every day and we're working on client stuff and we're kind of nose to the grindstone. So it is nice to have that separate time that's like, okay, now we step back and reflect and look at things. Whereas most days we're kind of like in it.
Yeah.
I guess.
Well, and it's really easy to put off your own stuff, you know, especially it's really easy to like just kind of push aside, okay, we're not going to work on the company, we're going to get some billable hours in and all. And I'm not saying that's not valuable. I'm just saying that sometimes you have to put that time in, and I'm trying to, even in my personal life, build in that time for
I was going to say
reflection.
I can think of like in my personal life, like the things that I put off are usually like those little improvement things, like reading 10 pages of this book that or like so I'm like laughing at myself because there were like 3 things last night that I was going to do that I just didn't, because
but at least it's in your mind, and it's scheduled, you know, and it allows you to have, you know, it schedules the space for those ideas to happen, which I think is really important. And we probably should do it twice a year, you know, but the reality is that, you know, we're busy, we've got a lot going on, and
it's kind of a big deal.
Right.
I had to throw that out there.
Right. And, you know, and honestly, even once a year, I think is better than no times a year. So I'm really, you know, glad to be able to do it. And I look forward to it. You know, the first year I was dreading it, honestly, as the, you know, captain of the ship, because I thought, oh my God, I'm just going to basically sit and have 3 people tell me everything that's wrong with this. So I will say, if you're the leader of a company and you just really don't, if you're resisting because you feel a little insecure, it probably will go better than you think. Because that's what I probably projected that I wasn't, but I was really like, you know, I like walked in and I could feel like my little hackles going up. I am very resistant to change. I know that about myself. You know, I need to be presented things a certain way. I'm sure Katsy's probably figured out exactly how to do this, but usually my thing is, let me think about it. But what's nice about the retreat is you can have the conversation, and it basically allows me to kind of, I'm not the kind of person who jumps in water, I'm the kind of person who wades in, and it allows me to wade in. And I really, it's so funny too, because when you start businesses, people, you know, they're like, oh, you're like the kind of person who jumps out of planes or whatever. I am not. I'm the most cautious, like, you know, hesitant person about making big decisions, even though it doesn't seem like it. I'm, you know, and I take things really personally. That's the other fun thing about me that most people don't know, is that, like, I was worried that some things were going to come out of this that were going to make the people that work with me respect me less, but it was not like that at all. So if you're resistant because of that, don't be, because like I said, you know, the password management thing, I would have never wanted to do that. I would have been like, okay, this is going to be about 100 hours of work that I can't bill for, but it has to happen. But hearing everyone say, yes, this needs to happen, like, allowed me to finally say, okay, this is important to people. It's not just, you know, we got to do it. Because sometimes I need that that prodding.
I definitely find that in my, like, I need, like, just because I know it, because, like, we're smart people and we're pretty self-aware, sometimes it helps to have that outside. Like, I had to have my doctor tell me not to run the Boston Marathon because running more than 5 miles, I feel like someone kicked me in the back really hard.
Yeah.
Perhaps a donkey. But, you know, most normal people would be like, wow, this really hurts, I should stop doing it.
Yeah.
But, you know, sometimes it helps when you're, like, really into something to redirect a little.
I know, and you know, and I'm not sure, did you have any hesitations going to the first retreat at all? What were you, I know you said you were, like, a little nervous about talking in front of people that you didn't know very well, or just being in a room with a bunch of people all day who you've never met before.
Yeah, I think
that was most of it.
That was most of it, just because I'm, like, the introverted / shy type. I think I was worried that one of my big things is, I think, the shy part, because the shyness comes with, like, the shame thing. So, like, it's just one of those areas that I, like, just kind of constantly have to work at every day.
Yeah.
But I was worried that when I did talk, or that I either wouldn't talk or I would just be really quiet into my own head. And just because that's typically the way I am. I think some people have maybe been in meetings with me where, wow, that girl hasn't said anything. And it's just, it's not that I'm not engaged, it's just I'm petrified of speaking and opening my mouth, because I'm afraid that what I'm saying I'm not going to be able to articulate, and it's going to come out really stupid sounding. And that's something I've definitely gotten over, I think, after, like, 3 years. But at the first retreat, I was like, I'm going to say something, and these people I've never met before are like, why is she working here? Like, we work with that. That's awful. So that was my other hesitation.
Right.
But in terms of, like, you running the retreat or anything like that, I mean, I had been working with you, and I knew how much planning and stuff you were putting into it. So I kind of knew that we were in good hands. So.
Well, and it's funny because, of course, me knowing everyone, I knew, like, oh, Cassie's going to get along with John and Leslie, and it's going to not be a problem. But, so it's funny. So as the leader, you're worried that you're going to hear a bunch of negative stuff, and you're going to get, like, totally scapegoated. And then as a participant, you're worried that you're going to say an idea that other people aren't going to listen to, and you're going to have to, like, present yourself in a way that maybe you're not comfortable with. Because it does feel, because basically this person who's running the retreat is basically asking you to be vulnerable. And if you're not comfortable being that normally, asking you to do it in front of a bunch of people is probably slightly terrifying.
And if you consider, like, most of our work is done kind of behind the screen, we have that, like, little barrier. It's like, oh no, there's no computers at the retreat, so
right.
Mingle.
Yeah, and that's the thing too I'll say is that, like, you know, it seems kind of silly, but there's no computers at this retreat, except for the part that we train on the software, because we all owned it. So we'll hook up the computer toward the end of the day where we do the training part. But I know, and then we're an internet company, so that might be weird, but I think there's something about just being with your thoughts, even if it takes a bit. And part of why we start with what's going well is that it, like, warms people up, because people feel very comfortable sharing something positive. But it gets everyone kind of warmed up and sharing and sort of seeing that their ideas are being supported. And the transition to negative, there is like a bit of a pause, like where no one wants to be the first person. So then I'm the first person. I'm like, okay, here are 3 things that I think are negative. And that kind of, as the leader person, you should think about a couple of things to just kind of set the tone and not just either A, put them all on yourself, or B, put them all, like, okay, here's something that I know is my fault, and here's something like company-wide that I think we need to work on. And then that gets people going because it gives them the confidence that, okay, you just shared, so they can too.
Yes, I will say another quick thing that's really awesome about this retreat is that you share the agenda with us a couple days in advance, so we know what to expect, and we can do some prep work on our own, so it can be like even that much more productive. Like becoming knowing, even if we just glance at the thing, we're like, okay, this is what to expect.
Right.
Well, I'm definitely a plan in advance person.
Well, and I think your mind works on stuff too that you don't realize. Like you'll read something and then you'll like be thinking, usually me it's when I'm driving, like I have ideas, some of which are kind of crazy, but you just are subconsciously working on it. So by sharing it ahead, I'm not saying basically everyone's going to give a little 10-minute presentation about something. And, I've got I'm going to do PicMonkey. You're doing Edgar, and John's doing WeVideo. But the idea is that even if we each learn one tip from each of the software, it's been a useful day. But besides that, we've gotten so much other benefit from it too. So I'm happy to share. If anyone's interested, you can just message us, and I'm happy to send you our retreat agenda. I mean, just like a template that you can work with. Maybe not all the nitty gritty stuff. But what we do is we do everything on chart paper because I did work at a nonprofit, and we get this chart paper that has like the sticky top, like it's a giant Post-it, and it's like that. It's kind of, it's like $40 for like a pad of it or something, but you're not gonna. I think it takes us 2 or 3 years to go through a whole pad, and then we have colorful markers, and we each take turns, and then what I do at the end of it is I just compile everything into a Google Doc and share it, so we have the notes. So every year there's an agenda and notes, so we can always go back. And each document kind of links to the other, so you can look back on the notes and be like, okay, this was. And this year, I would say, like, I think we hit all 3 of the things that we really wanted to work on, in addition to doing some we stuck a little bit harder than others, but but keeping it in the back of our mind allowed us to work through these, and we're going to have different ideas. So the idea is that every year we get better and better, but not having computers in the room most of the time forces us to be alone with our thoughts, which I think is a good idea. And like we're not checking our phones. We're not, it's out, and I think that's an important thing to do. So if you have a company and you have a couple of people you work with, even if they're not employees, even if they're subcontractors, and you are paying them to, I think it's worth it if you work with these people on a regular basis to get some feedback from them and to be able to learn from each other and to get to know each other better personally too. I think that's, that makes working together way easier.
I agree. Yeah. After that FaceTime, I was like, okay.
Yeah.
I feel a lot more.
Right. Yeah. I feel less weird emailing this John person because now I've literally met him once, and, we share Ron Swanson jokes, and,
all the Rons.
All the Rons. I don't know. So, like I said, I can link a general retreat agenda in the notes here. So if you want to refer to it, it's pretty basic, but you can work it for your particular business or nonprofit. And like I said, we run it in about 6 hours, but you could even do a half day too. So it's however you want to do it, but it's better than the suggestion box. That's for darn sure.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm not even gonna go there.
Well, no, because what other ways do you get feedback? You ask employees to take a survey, right? So if they have to associate their name, do you see the look on our face at the idea of taking a survey?
Especially if you're a 3-person company and you have a suggestion box, it's like, I wonder who wrote this note.
Wow, this looks like Cassie's handwriting.
Exactly. Yeah. John's not here, so
right.
You'd have to mail a suggestion.
Please put in suggestion box. Yeah. So in terms of ways of getting feedback, I think the retreat is a good thing.
Yeah. And I will say the first one might have seemed super scary, but it's definitely like the low risk way to, or it feels it's just a lot more comfortable.
Yeah.
Once you get going.
Yeah, and like you said, now year to year we have a, you know, it's just, it took me like 15 minutes to make that agenda. You know, it took me, like Cassie said, the first year I like totally overly prepared. It's probably like the first time you do anything, like the first time you have a baby, or you like totally like overly prepare, right? And then, but then, you know, and then you kind of relax and you're like, okay, I get how to do this now. So the first year it took me probably half a day to sort of prep everything. And then this year I've spent 15 minutes on the agenda, and I have a couple of restaurant suggestions that I'll probably text Cassie and John later and be like, hey, where do you want to get takeout from? Ta-da! So I probably spend maximum half an hour on it. But even if you've never done it as a company, you might get some initial resistance of people like thinking it's weird, and just as the leader, you just need to go with it like it's not weird. Like, no, we're going to do this and it's going to be great. And totally act like you're not terrified of hearing that you're a terrible person who runs a terrible company, because that's not what's going to come out of it. You're going to get something actually workable.
Yes. I was going to like add a like rainbows and butterflies moment, but I will refrain.
No, and like I said, and there's nothing wrong with having stuff to work on, and if you look at it over the course of a couple of years.
It's good to have stuff to work on.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's like, okay, now we have like a goal, and we're all on the same page at least.
Right, we're all rowing in the same direction, so to speak, but...
Yes. Yeah, if anything, you get like a nice little like unification / redirect with everyone who might have been a little scattered. And you'd be surprised, even within departments in companies, like, it's nice to kind of just get everyone to sit down and be like, okay, like, this is where this person is coming from.
Right. Well, and it gives people ownership, too. Like, you know, that they feel like they're a part of things and that their suggestions are going to be listened to. Like, that's, you know, I always told myself if I was ever going to be the boss of anyone that, because I've worked for companies that were just like, yeah, we don't care what you think, you know. And that's really hard, you know, because you're like, you want to contribute if you're that right kind of person. So giving people a way to do that doesn't put them out. A retreat's a good way to do it. Because otherwise, yeah, you know, you can go to someone's house and have a potluck and not talk about work. I think that's great if you can do that. Yeah, you can have like a strategic, you know, a whole like day-long meeting where it's really intense and like everyone
I'm just picturing like PowerPoints.
Yeah, lots of PowerPoints, you know, like you go to, you know, when you go to a conference and you just go to a bunch of sessions and you like leave and you're just like, oh my God, daylight. So you need something that's a balance of both. And that's what the retreat can do.
Oh my God, daylight.
Right? We've all been to those conferences, right?
Like, I've just been looking at like UV.
Right, where I've just been like absorbing stuff and not putting stuff out myself, you know? I think it's really exhausting to just absorb information. That's why I think it's, you know, kids are really, like after school, I don't get how every kid doesn't take a nap. It must be exhausting to just like take information in all day. And as adults, we go to like a one-day conference and we're like, whoa. And yet we ask like 6-year-olds to like do it for 6 hours at a time, you know, with little breaks. So, you know, learning's exhausting. So you want it to be a balance of something that's exhausting and productive and learning and informal and team building and exciting. Like, there's no reason it can't be both.
Yeah, how are they not all like passed out on the playground at recess?
I don't know. I would be.
Nap spot right at the bottom of the slide.
Yeah, and they don't even have coffee. Most of them.
I know, that's one of the things, like, since being pregnant, I'm like, why can't I stay up past 8? Like, because I can't drink. I was drinking like so much coffee every day.
Right, but I know pregnancy makes you exhausted though.
So it's like, I don't even have anything to battle it with. You just have to muscle through it.
Yeah.
Anyway, I had to hear you there. But I've been empathizing a lot with people that don't get coffee because I am now one of those people.
It's okay, Cass. We'll get you a fun drink tomorrow. We'll get you a fun warm beverage.
I mean, I can drink a little coffee. I have a little, like, but yeah, it's like this much, and I have to water it down.
Yeah, hey, happens to the best of us. All right, so I hope you consider having a retreat if you haven't had one before, and if you do, can you like email us or leave a comment or something and let us know how it goes when you do it? Because I would just be curious, and I'll make a little PDF that I'll link in the notes of this video of our basic agenda format that you can copy. Because it's not, I totally got it. You know, I wrote one and I sent it to this business counselor and she edited it. She's the one who added the learning part and she added some other the getting to know you at the beginning part, and I was like, okay, Nicole's trying to be a little bit too businessy. I was trying to be a little bit too much like a conference. So she added the other parts to it, and I was a little skeptical, but then once it ran, I totally got it. So I will share that happily with anybody who wants it. Anything else you want to add about retreats?
I'm just really looking forward to tomorrow.
Yeah.
This just made me really excited.
Yeah, so we're going to have ours tomorrow, so if you don't see us online, that's where we're at. And maybe we'll get a group photo and post it. But other than that, we'll be in this room with chart paper and some snacks. And that's pretty much how it'll go. So thanks for watching, and if you have anything you want us to talk about, feel free to, I don't know.
Comment, send us a message through Facebook, or send us an email.
Yeah. Carrier pigeon, whatever works for you.
Signals. Yeah, I think I've offered smoke signals before. It's a little cloudy today, so
yeah, maybe hold off on those.
Yeah.
All right, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next Thursday. Bye.
Bye.